If you've ever tried to unlock your iPhone with Face ID over the last year while wearing a face mask, you know it's a horrible experience. With an upcoming iOS update, Apple is making the process seamless. But there's a catch. You have to have an Apple Watch. I'm Jason Cipriani with Jason Perlow, and on this episode of Jason Squared, we're going to talk about our first impressions of the new unlock method in iOS 14.5, as well as some other goodies it includes. All right, Perlo, I think it's pretty easy for us to discount iOS updates that happen in between major updates like iOS
hmm
14 to iOS 15. Right now we're on 14.4, but these updates are starting to add quite a few new features that are very interesting. Um, iOS 14.4 was just released a few weeks
hmm
ago, and it had its own fair share of features in it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember the iOS 14.3 update and the initial release. Today is definitely a grab bag of iOS stuff that we should be catching up on. There is indeed a lot of little updates that have occurred over the last few months, which are good to know about. So if you just simply accepted the updates and you haven't really dived in all the nooks and crannies of the system and seen what's changed, we're going to go over some of it. So in case you missed it in 14.4. And this is a fairly new thing. This only happened in the last week. There's a new watch face and a watch band introduced with iOS 14.4. I see, went off here. You can see it there. What color does it look like? Yeah. So it's a red and green uh, watch face called Unity, which has very large numerals, which uses colors of the Pan African Unity flag. And that can also be set up in a grayscale mode. And Apple sells a coordinating red, black, and green sports band to go with it, which is $50.
Yep.
I think it's stylish. It's very cool looking, as well as a complete package as an Apple Watch Series 6 with the watch band for $400. I happen to like this watch face a lot. You can see that I don't know if you can see that's red and green with the camera. Um, because my eyes are like really old and crappy, and the numbers are like really big, and they're fantastic and they're stylish looking. And there are some like large numeral watch faces that Apple has in the Watch app, but they're not as cool looking. I definitely would like to see Apple do more with these customized and special watch faces and provide a
Yeah.
developer kit so we can see a lot more of these. I'd love to see what artists can do with them, but it's a good start that they're starting to do this. Um, the next thing that came out in 14.4 was a improved Siri emergency call support. Now we've always had emergency call support built into Siri, but now there's like a countdown timer, so that if you hit that, that button sequence that immediately starts to call 911, you have that sort of time. You don't have to be rushed like, oh my God, like I hit it by mistake.
Yeah, there
I've
was
done
some
that.
confusion when iOS 14.5, the developer beta, which we're going to dive into here in a minute, when
Yep.
that was released, it included this new Siri. You could tell Siri to call emergency for you. And it was believed it was part of 14.5, but it looks like it was a server-side switch, so it actually works on older OSs as well. So it's not a 14.5 specific feature, which is kind of cool. And I'm glad they finally give you a countdown that you can cancel in case someone's messing around with your phone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, like I say, that's a great thing that they're optimizing the emergency services, especially during the pandemic, or if someone falls or what
Yeah.
happened, or, gets sick. It's definitely something we need to have on our smartphones. The This particular function you and I argued about it yesterday as to whether it was new or it wasn't new. The code has certainly been in iOS for a while, but it's being
Yeah.
uncovered. It's being more uncovered now by various methods. There appears to be a Find My Items function in the Find
Right.
My app. Now, this is different from Find My Devices. We've had Find My Devices for a while now, since the Find My app used to be called Find My iPhone, but then they just changed it to Find My, and you can locate your iPad, your iPhone, your watch, whatever stuff you have. Now they're going to extend it to. It sounds like they're going to extend it to third parties through some type of an API, possibly like with
No, it's happening.
like tiles and stuff. And
Yeah.
eventually we will see the AirTags. Hopefully, I'm really
Yeah, yeah.
hoping that we
So
see that. Yeah.
So this tab can be triggered by putting a special URL into Safari, and it'll actually force launch the Find My app to the Items tab itself, which, like you said, will include hopefully Apple AirTags
Yeah.
whenever those are released. But Belkin and I believe Tile have already announced products that will integrate with the Items tab. I know Belkin has. I wrote about it back at CES earlier this year. I guess it's February now. So at the beginning of January, when CES was going on, Belkin announced some wireless earbuds that will integrate with Apple's Find My Items. Although they didn't name it items, they just said Find My app once they're released this spring. So I think we're looking for a March event where we're going to see that finally launch,
Yep.
as well as the third party support with Apple's own AirTags.
Yep. And this is kind of like the first instance that we're going to see heavy, more increased usage of that ultra wideband chip
Yeah,
that I believe began in the iPhone 11.
it did.
So which brings us to what we call handoff support or improved handoff support. I don't happen to have one. You have a whole bunch of HomePod minis in your house.
I
But
do.
what this does is it uses the ultra wideband chip in the iPhone that if you bring it closer to the speaker, certain activities pop up on the screen, and it's a really cool integration. I saw the animation, the some demonstrations of how it works, but effectively
Yeah.
allows things like the handoff, or like as you get closer to the device, it shows you what song is playing and stuff. It's some cool things that they've done for human sort of interface with the HomePod.
Yeah,
It looks really cool. Yeah,
it is cool, but it's also kind of annoying because I,
really.
I have a HomePod mini sitting on my desk. And it's not just distance from the HomePod mini. I could have my iPhone completely vertical and it won't trigger it. But as I start to tilt it back, that's when it starts to trigger it. And you get haptic feedback on your phone, letting you know, hey, it has found something, something's going on. And a little notification shows up on the top of your phone where you can take full
Right.
control over your HomePod mini and what it's playing, or you can hand off what your iPhone is playing. But the problem is, if you set your phone too close to your HomePod, your phone randomly starts vibrating, and you get that haptic feedback. So you're triggering it on accident all the time. So I've actually had to move my HomePod further away from where I used to have it and where I normally keep my phone, so I'm not constantly
Right.
triggering it. Now you can disable it, but then you completely disable handoff to the HomePod, and it's something I use once in a while. So I'd like to have the option to use it, but I don't want it triggered every time I accidentally tilt my phone too far back. It's If you have a chance to play with it, it's fascinating how as you rotate your phone, it starts to you start to feel that feedback, and then it's triggered. Uh, it shows how precise ultra wideband is going to be once it's fully rolled out, and we have devices like AirTags where we can track stuff. The first time I realized how I held my phone determined whether or not
Yeah.
it was being triggered. I was like, wait a minute, it's that accurate, and it's kind of crazy.
It is kind of cool how the directional beam on it works, especially if you have at least an iPhone 11 and you have a friend or or someone in your family. My wife has an iPhone 12 as well. We started doing this with what you call it, the AirDrop.
AirDrop.
So
Oh,
if you actually hold this and you point it towards the phone's face to face, you can see how quickly it locks on with AirDrop. Because one of the things I used to hate about AirDrop was like it would be looking and looking and looking and looking and looking. This literally,
yeah,
if you have them next to each other, bam, it's
really.
instantaneous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
haven't
fast.
tested that. I'll have to give that a shot.
My wife takes a lot of photos of food and stuff that when I post it on
Gotcha.
Facebook. So like when I put up food posts, she beams me the photos of stuff, or when she goes out with her girlfriends and goes to eat stuff. That's cool. Um, The other thing, speaking of photographs, so if you were one of those people like me that spent big money on an iPhone 12 Pro or a Pro Max, um, this is actually a 14.3 feature, not a 14.4 feature, but a lot of people didn't notice it. Is the ProRAW image format support for the iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max. If you spent big money on an iPhone 12 Pro, the ProRAW support is like the biggest
Yeah,
part of that. Aside from the cameras and the lenses, and the sensors, obviously, is the ability to capture this uncompressed pro image format. Now you need to have obviously an image editing app that can handle the raw format. There's a couple on the phone that you can get. Um, from the App Store, but also normally we're talking about Adobe and other types of apps like that that can do the import into your computer and work with that uncompressed format. There's so much more image density, so much more data that is captured in an uncompressed format that you can do a lot of cool stuff with lighting effects and things that really, you're really matching in a lot of respects, the DSLR cameras and the mirrorless cameras capture capabilities with the iPhone sensor. So if you have an iPhone 12 Pro, take a look at that image format because it's quite impressive.
Yeah,
Um,
you can adjust that in, I think it's settings, camera,
yeah,
and enable Apple Pro RAW. It's the only format I shoot in now. I do
yeah,
wish the camera app remembered that you had it activated
yeah,
because there's a little toggle in the camera app to turn it on and off. Image sizes are quite bigger.
a lot bigger. Yeah,
Yeah, 25 megs for
yeah.
just a standard image when they used to be one or two at most. So make sure you have plenty of storage. The Photos app does a great job at editing those. If you want to get more in depth, like you said, use the Adobe apps.
Yep.
But the Photos app that's built into your iPhone or Mac even it does a great job at editing those photos themselves. And there was also a bunch of security fixes in
Yeah.
14.4. I think there was around 60 of them that,
A
and
lot.
some of them were actively being used and exploited. There were 0 days, which are severe security issues, and so Apple admitted they were actively being exploited in the real world. So make sure you update to 14.4 for no other reason than the security issues itself.
Yeah, the roll
But
ups on the security is like really. This is why I tell people do not wait
right,
to update your iPhone or iDevices because that's when they dump the security fixes is in these roll ups now.
yeah, and they try to quietly release the security stuff, but um, it, they admitted the 0 day exploits. I think there were three of them that they had patched in 14.4. So on Monday, Apple released the first developer beta of iOS 14.5. And so it's not available publicly yet. It's not an official release. There's still some bugs and some things they need to work out. And in fact, they haven't even released the public beta yet, which is something they do within a few days of releasing the first developer beta. But as I mentioned at the top of the show, there's a huge new feature in iOS 14.5, and that's with the ability to use your Apple Watch to unlock your iPhone
Yep.
using Face ID while
Yep.
you're wearing a mask. That is a
Yep.
requirement. All of those things
Yep.
have to be met. And as soon as I saw that, I installed it immediately. I had been
Immediately.
off betas for a while, but as soon as I saw that, because I am tired of the struggle that is unlocking your iPhone in public while wearing a face mask, and this feature works so great. And I think Jason, you're going
That's right.
to demonstrate how it works. Again, you have to have a face mask on. It does not work if you don't have your mask on, and it works a lot like unlocking your Mac with your Apple Watch. At least that's what it reminds me of, except for it's your iPhone. So I'll go ahead and let you, Jason, walk us through the demonstration.
Yeah, so basically you have to have a mask on like this, right? So you can see now my iPhone is locked, but if I do this, it immediately unlocked the phone. Like now, what I felt here was a haptic feedback on the watch
Yeah.
instantaneously. You do have to point it at your face. So what it is the Face ID sensor is still looking for your face geometry and it's actually mapping your face and it notices that you're wearing a watch, that you're wearing a
Yep.
mask, right? So now it's unlocked, it's locked. And if I do this again, I just felt the haptic feedback again. It doesn't take that long at all. So it's really only doing like a partial scan, or really it realizes that it has to do a quicker partial scan, checks the watch authenticates that you have that the watch is active, that it's authenticated to that user, and it works pretty seamlessly. I mean, I gotta say, I'm quite impressed with it. I used it, when going out for pizza the other night, and people thought I was doing sorcery because, like, so many people, when they go out and
Yeah.
um, they do, they go out and they have to unlock their phone to before they do, either they're doing I mean, if they're doing the only thing that it doesn't do, which I kind of wish they would, was that it would enable the unlock also on the Apple Pay. Now, of course, if you have Apple Pay and you have an Apple Watch, you can still pay directly with your watch, right? But
Right.
what I
Right.
what I what I have found with some readers, like with Square and some of the other companies, that if you have to extend your hand out and depending on the orientation of that reader, you got to get that NFC much closer to the reader than you do with an iPhone. I just felt like, with this distance is actually usually good enough to pay for something. But look, it's definitely to not have to unlock your iPhone, with the digits by wearing a mask or something. It's definitely faster. It's definitely much more convenient. I'm glad they implemented it. It's a fantastic feature, and I can't wait till everybody else gets it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait until this is out as
Yeah.
well. One thing I want to mention, you covered it, very thoroughly, but that haptic feedback you get on your wrist from the watch, there's actually a button on there that if someone else was to pick up your iPhone and hold it up to their mask covered face and it
Right.
unlocks for some reason, that feedback you get on your wrist also has a button on there to instantly lock your iPhone. So,
Oh, cool.
and your watch and your phone have to be very close together for this to work, but there is that backup security feature that you could lock your phone if someone else was able to trigger it and get it to unlock. So I think it's really well done for the first beta. It
Oh,
works pretty
yeah.
flawlessly. You enable it by going into settings, Face ID, and passcode. You have to
Yep.
scroll down a bit, and there's an option in there. Of course, you'll need to be on WatchOS 7.4, I
Three.
think we're on now.
Three, four. I'm
It's
not sure. Whatever. I always,
Yeah,
I
I
always
think it's
update the
4.
watch whenever I update the phone. I update the watch at the same time. So it's,
Yeah,
you
so if
know.
you're part of the public beta program, both the phone and the watch need to be enrolled and take part, and upgrade to the latest beta. So if you're, wanting to use that. What else did they add? Well, we don't officially know this one yet, but people have, there's developers and other writers who dive into the source code of updates, and some very strong evidence has been found that Apple is finally going to add family sharing to the Apple Card, meaning one person has the card and they're able to get other cards to share with their family members, so you can manage one account instead of each person having to have their own individual account, which Perlo, you and I recorded a show
Oh yeah, I cannot
a
wait to
long
this.
time ago about this.
Yeah, I cannot wait till. I mean, obviously, I want to see more features add to the Apple Card service, period. But this is like on like close to the top of the list of something that I want to. Because let's say you had, 3 or 4 kids, and you want to give them an allowance for spending limits and stuff. Look, no one wants to work with cash now. As of the pandemic, cash is like a non-thing. Right. So if
Yeah.
you want to give your kid an Apple Card and give him, $500 a month, and you want, I mean, I think I'm going to want to see from the administrator side what limits you can set and things like that. But the consolidated billing capabilities to be able to have one single invoice and pay the whole darn thing off of across 3, 4 cards, that's what I've wanted for a long time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so Apple launched Apple Pay family shared cards. So basically, you
Yeah.
can give your kids, is what it's designed for, an Apple Pay digital card on their phone, which is fine. But having that physical Apple card, which I hope is what this includes, is a huge deal. My daughter's about to turn 13, and giving her that responsibility and teaching her lessons about managing money and whatnot is a huge advantage to something like this. And I really hope, when 14.5 comes out, this is still around in the code and it's something they actually launch. Like I said, I have talked about this a lot, and we've been waiting for it for quite a while. Also included is a new Fitness Plus feature, which
Yeah.
allows you to AirPlay the audio, right? I
Video,
think
video and audio.
video. Oh yeah, that's right. Video and audio during a Fitness Plus workout to an AirPlay 2 compatible device. Meaning, I have a Roku TV that is
Yep.
AirPlay 2 compatible, so I could watch my workout on that TV instead of having to have an Apple TV device itself. So that's a huge benefit. I know Rachel, we talked to her a few shows ago. She's excited about this.
She's incredibly excited, especially for she's part of an Apple Watch and Fitness Plus user group on Facebook, and they've been discussing this feature because a lot of people have been annoyed that you couldn't just play this on a television, right?
Yeah.
And there are workarounds to date that such as getting there's an AV adapter for Lightning to
Sure.
AV, um, and also for the iPad Pro for hooking up an HDMI connection directly into the television set to mirror the display. That's clunky. What this does literally is it beams the video of the instructor during the workout. And the only thing it doesn't do is show the Apple Watch metrics of your heart rate and all that while it's doing it, because the way that Apple does this on its app is it composites the video and the data into the app on their. So, AirPlay was really designed as a video protection, end-to-end video transmission, kind of like a really kind of like what Chromecast does. But it wasn't really designed for beaming an entire app over to another screen that isn't designed to be an Apple device. So
Yeah.
it's way better than nothing. I mean, the fact that you can just you can go to your TV set, and if you got an AirPlay 2 compatible device, it'll play the workout and it'll continue to capture your data on the watch and in an iCloud. It's excellent for people who want an inexpensive solution like that, for sure.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to checking it out. I need to actually start using Fitness Plus. I'm paying for it.
Yeah,
Might as well use it.
you and me both.
Maybe one day. So
Yeah,
dual SIM support for 5G. This was something missing at the iPhone 12 launch.
yeah,
I know people really want this, and it finally is included in iOS 14.5, which is a good thing. You can use an eSIM now as your secondary 5G SIM, which is good for people who travel or when traveling opens back up. And
yep.
now standalone 5G network support. I didn't see anything about this, but T-Mobile's going to support it first. What exactly is that?
So, as we have a 5G transmission transition that's occurring at most of the major carriers, right? So they're building out the 5G infrastructure while at the same time they have the old LTE 4G infrastructure. So currently at most of the other carriers, if you are connected to like a sub 6 or ultra wideband, what's happening is that there's certain signals that are continuing to be passed on the LTE network for that transition's purposes to function, right? So
Yeah.
what T-Mobile is doing is the first really to do it is to have a standalone 5G network. That means all your voice and data is going across the 5G, right? There's no what they call LTE piggybacking occurring, right? Now you need this full 5G network support in order to support faster speeds and much larger 5G deployments. So, like I said, T-Mobile is first. There will be other carriers that follow, but this is actually critical for the iPhone to support next generation networks. So it's good that it's getting in there now.
Yeah, and it's just a software update, right? It's not a
That's,
hardware update, which is
no,
which is kind of cool.
it's just software. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so they also included support for the PlayStation 5 DualShock controller as well as the Xbox Series S and X controllers, which
Yep.
are different than the former Xbox Series 1 controllers or whatever. Xbox's naming scheme is confusing at best, which is a huge thing. There's various UI or interface improvements to podcast news reminders as well, and then there's more tweaks to emergency alerts. But there's another big one that's included in this
This one
that
is
Apple has
huge.
said
Yeah.
is going to launch with 14.5, and it's making Facebook especially very upset. And that is the app tracking transparency rollout, which means going forward after iOS 14.5 is launched, as long as Apple sticks to this timeline, because remember, this was supposed to launch with iOS 14 back in September. So 14.5 will bring in this new feature. When you open an app like Facebook, they will be required to ask you, do you want to opt in to providing your personalized data in exchange for ads and allowing them to track you on your phone, or do you want them not to track you and take advantage of your personal data? There's a big problem for Facebook here in the fact that odds
Yeah.
are people are going to opt out. It's already off by default, so you have to opt in to this. This isn't something that they have access until you make that decision. If you ignore it, whatever, they're not getting any of your data. And Facebook is talking about, suing Apple over this. It's a huge deal.
I'm curious about the psychology of the actual developers, though, and how these apps are going to work going forward. Because if you decide to say, no, I don't want to be tracked, can they just say, sorry, you can't use our service? Is that something that the developers are allowed to do, and
No,
stay on
I
this
don't think
and
so.
stay on the App Store?
Yeah, I don't believe so. They already have the nutrition labels in the App Store right now. So if you go look up Facebook Messenger in the App Store and you scroll down, and it looks just like the nutrition label that you would have on food, but this is a privacy label. I think that's what Apple's calling it, maybe privacy nutrition label. But it lists every aspect of your personal data that that app collects and uses to track you. So not only are they having to ask you to opt in, but they have
Right.
to tell you exactly what they're doing. And I believe Apple requires if you say no, you still have to have access to that app.
Oh, really?
And they can't just block you from it, which you know a lot of companies are going to get hurt by this. There's no doubt about it. The Whether that's right or wrong on Apple's part, that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother show. But it's coming within the
Yep.
next couple of months,
I'm looking
and
forward
this
to this. I cannot wait to say no, heck no, you can't track me. I'm awesome. I cannot wait. Cannot
I
wait.
am with you, especially for big companies like Facebook and
Yeah.
across Instagram and WhatsApp and all their other services. Now, mind you, this doesn't do anything for tracking online and on other devices. It's only specifically on that phone. So they'll Facebook can still track you, if you get on your Mac or your PC and visit the website, they're still going to be able to track you there. But a lot of people, their primary device for accessing social media is their iPhone. So this or iPad for that matter. So this is going to be a big deal.
Yep. 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 And of course, so there's a lot of other things that are left. Lots of little user interface improvements in podcasts, news, and reminders. I'm sure a couple of other little ones will probably pop up as people start to dig into them. It's great that Apple's finally streamlining these apps, making them easier to use and stuff. There are some
Yeah.
that that have been kind of janky for a while. Um, as you said, there's additional tweaks for notifications for the emergency alerts, which are I think are whether you get notified under certain conditions and stuff you can select. So there's some more granularity there. Um, there's not
Yeah.
what did you there's something called searches for emojis.
Yeah,
Um,
so on the iPhone, you could
yeah.
actually search through the emoji keyboard with iOS
Yep.
14.
Yep.
That, for some reason, was left out of iPadOS 14. So now, with
Yeah.
iPadOS 14.5, it's back, which is who knows why it wasn't there. I'm glad it's there now. But that kind of dovetails into my high hopes for
Yep.
iPadOS 14.5. If you remember last March, Apple surprised everyone with trackpad and mouse support for the iPad with iPadOS 13.4, I believe.
Yeah.
And there was no hints. I mean, there was kind of, hey, Apple might be working on this, and a few rumors a couple weeks ahead of time, but no one found anything in the source code ahead of the launch. So personally, I'm hoping with iPadOS 14.5 this year, we have another iPad surprise in March or whenever this ends up being released. And that is my top of my list. I hope there's a lot of changes, but the top of my list is true external display support. Right now, when you
Yeah.
connect an iPad to a monitor, or an iPad, any iPad, but my iPad Pro to a monitor, it just mirrors the display. And there's black bars on each side. I would really love to see being able to extend the iPad desktop to a monitor and really take advantage of, two displays at that point, because I end up staring at my iPad screen half the time when it's connected to an external
The
monitor.
GPU built into the current generation A series processors is definitely powerful enough to drive a 4K external display. There's no question.
Yeah.
Or even a 2K display, it's good enough to do it at native resolution. So there's no reason why they can't do it.
Yeah, it already drives a 4K display with the iPad,
Pro, yeah.
mirrored. So
Yeah.
it, it's more than powerful enough to do it. It's just them deciding to actually implement it in the way they're going to implement it, which the way they did mouse and trackpad support is fantastic. I have no doubt they'll be able to do it for, extending the display. It's a feature they have to add. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts on iOS 14.5 or
Yeah,
iOS in general?
yeah, I mean, Jason, I think all these little fixes are well and good, but I would love to see more attention given to the iPad period, right?
Yep.
It's kind of felt like a second class citizen, ever since iOS 14 has been released, especially with the lack of widgets on the home screen or the app gallery. That
Yeah,
drives me nuts.
me
Um,
too.
the fact that I had this 13.9, 13, this 13-inch screen, and I got to go like that,
Right.
is nutty, right? Now you think the device would be built for that purpose, um, and the widgets would be phenomenal on the large display. So I totally agree with you that it needs more than just screen mirroring. It needs full secondary display support. And look, there's a lot of things that you can do with an iPad that you can't. fundamentally do with a device that's this small. Like, there's a lot of things they can do to take advantage of that screen real estate. So I really want to see them do that. Um, in iOS 15. Maybe I don't know what it is that prevented them from doing it in iOS 14, but maybe they have something more ambitious planned they're trying to roll out for iPad, and they wanted to wait till the next revision or something. Who knows?
Yeah, that's my
But
hope is that iPadOS 15 brings brand new multitasking because right now it works, but it's clunky and a brand new home screen experience as well that integrates widgets that's different than what the iPhone has because
maybe it'll be Mac OS for M1. They'll just iPad OS will be just for legacy devices, right? They'll be just be the next generation iPad will be M based, and we'll have, of course, they'll have to come up with touchscreen support and all that other stuff, which would be a huge job. But
yeah.
yeah, we can dream, right? So
Yeah, well, I'll keep dreaming. I'm okay with iPad OS staying on there instead of Mac OS, but
yeah.
yeah, I would love to see some huge improvements. I have a long list of stuff I want to see, but like I said, at the top of it is external display support. So that's all the time we have. We've gone long today. Thank you for sticking with us. If you listened to the entire thing, we truly appreciate it. If you watched it, thanks for watching us. We really appreciate that as well. I'm Jason Cipriani.
And I'm Jason Perlow.
And this is Jason Squared. Make sure to check out more of our work at zdnet.com.